Hello everyone, welcome to the first video here. My name is Dustin Weber. I was the lead developer for the CPD DMS project, and so I was requested to have some of these training videos to go over some basics of the application. So the first video is going for the general overview of the main screens and icons. So here's just a quick list of things that we're going to go over. The workspace, the collection view, these queries, overview of what all the right-click options do, and how to check your role and group, and then what that means based on your role and group. So I'm going to show two different user perspectives today. I'm going to show the ADM user, and I'm going to show an SDL user. So in the background here, you'll see the EOS screen. So most of you guys will use the link pass to sign in. I'm going to use one of our test accounts to sign in, and this is going to be the ADM role. So upon logging in, you'll see three different areas. The left side is going to be where all your collections are, where all the documents are stored in this collection hierarchy here. Above that, you'll see your shared searches, so all the custom searches we made for quick access to looking up documents. Above that, you'll see any searches that you created, as well as any, and then the two default Quark ones, which is your assignments, and any documents you have checked out. The middle window is any documents in the collection selected. So if I navigate into National, I go to CDAE, and let's pick Farmstead Energy in 2020. Then as I click on these folders, it changes what is populated in this middle window. Then when I select a document, that is when the preview comes into play. It will generate, it doesn't generate it, this is a static picture on the server, and this is where just a quick preview to look at. If you want to see a more detailed preview, you'd either check the document out or do read only. So next up, let's just go a deeper dive into the collection view here. So for national documents, it is based off of, first you have the non-practice specific documents. So ecological science tools, engineering specifications, or engineering tools. So you have those three, and so 000 means non-practice documents. Then we break it into lead discipline. So you have CDAE in all the different lead disciplines, and then as well as you have the dual disciplines. So whichever discipline is listed first, that's the primary, and then you have the secondary discipline listed after that. And then both national discipline leads will have access to these collections. Then if we go under there, we will see all of the codes that are in that discipline. So if we look at AE and Agron, there's only one standard here for both, and then all of the other AE standards are here, and then all of the other Agron standards are here. Then if we go a little further down, now we have the year revisions. So this standard was revised in 2014, and then it was revised again in 2018. Now keep in mind this is our pre-prod environment, so this data is not going to be accurate to when the standards were actually revised, so this is all just test data in here. The production server would have the actual correct dates. Now if we go over to state, let me minimize national here. So state is in a similar way, so under state we have all of the 50 states, and then we have Caribbean area to make 51, and then under Hawaii we have Pacific Islands. If I then go in that state we do not go by lead discipline within the states. We go first, we show the non-practice documents again, so 000, and then same structure. And then we go to the code numbers, so all the codes are just listed together, and then you'll see the practice codes, and then at the end you'll see the interims with the higher practice code number. And then as well as you go into there, you'll see the adoption date or the anticipated adoption date if it's under revision, and then that will show you what documents there are. So how to change the layout here. So that's really in this middle area. So you'll see if we just go by column, right, we have this one, global attachment, not going to really worry about that. All this means is that this considerations document has a reference potentially to this standard. So it just means that this document is referenced in another document. This next one will show checked out. So let's see if there's a document that's checked out. So I go to my checked out assets query here. You'll see this is the checked out symbol. Then next you have the status column. So if you hover over this, it'll tell you what the status means. And then next is the actual status field. Now that is not there by default, but I'll show you how to add it to your screen in 1 second. Next is routed to, then we have created, and last modified. Now this doesn't give you every little bit of information you want, so there are some options. You can use this snippet view to change how it looks. It lays out the information a little bit differently. I'm personally not a big fan of it, but it is an option if you so choose. And these are all user preferences, so you will not affect another user by changing this. So if you like it this way, that's perfectly fine. Next would be thumbnail view. So again, you're going to see a little more of a thumbnail. But these components just take up a lot of the room, so you lose a lot of the concise information. And then next would be back to the list view. Now if you see right next to the list view, there's this little caret. Now if I click on that, I have a few options. And the main one here is this customize current view. Now what that's going to do is it's going to customize this window I'm looking at right now. So if in here I'm going to see every single attribute that is in system. So any sort of attribute. So you could have document name, you could have document number, document type. So I'll select that one. I'll select it's another good one. We can do language. We can do lifespan. So if I hit OK here, it's going to add those columns to my table view here. So the language for these is English. The lifespan for the O&M and the standard are 5. And none of them have the document type attribute because none of them are checking other documents. So now let's say I wanted this to be on every single folder I look at. I'll use this drop down arrow and I'll do set this view for all of my collections. And what that will do is if I go to any other folder, I'll see the exact same columns. Now if I change this again and I remove lifespan, language, and they go away. So now let's say I switch back to this folder, it's still going to have the lifespan and language. And if I switch back to 2017, this one is the one that I've updated. So I'll set that back again to all of them. And one other option here in this group by, so you can group by attributes. So if I want to do status, It's going to group the documents in this collection by their status. Now this is best seen in our custom queries that I'll go into in 1 second, where we really use this group by feature. So anything with a common status, it will group it together. Now you're probably wondering why there's 3 draft statuses here together, and that's because they are technically different workflows. So there's a unique status to every workflow. So this draft is related to these components. This draft is related to supporting documents, and this status is related to the national practice supporting documents like the documentation file, long summary, short summary. They would belong to that workflow. So that is why they're separate. Okay, now I'm going to switch this back. So I'm just going to remove it. I want to remove document type. And then again, I'm just going to set it for all collections because I prefer this view. Okay. So now let's move into queries. So by default, we have the assignments and the checked out asset ones. So every user has these by default. And this just means someone routed the document to you. Either they routed directly to you or they routed it to a group that you are a part of. And they will appear in your assignments. So if you route a document to somebody else, it'll then get cleared from your assignments. If you check out a document, it'll appear in your checkout assets view here. If you ever see the word asset, that just means a document. The Quark uses the word asset, but really it's any document is considered an asset. And they will appear here. Now the reason why this is important is that if you have a document checked out, then you are potentially preventing other employees from accessing that document. So like ADMs can override checkouts, and NDLs can override like an NTL checkout. But if you're an ADM and you have a document checked out, then you could be preventing like an NTL or someone lower from accessing that document. So it can work 2 ways really well, right? So if you're still revising a document, you can leave it checked out to you, that way no one else can edit it. But if you want somebody else to edit it, then you really want to check that back in so they can have a turn to edit that document. Okay, then under that you're going to see shared searches. So at the time of recording this video, there were these 5. So the first major one is standard status. This query is going to show any standards that are under revision. So all the standards are like 318 is currently at QAT complete with Federal Register comments. Then if we go to pre-Q, let's go to ready for QAT. We have these 3 that are ready for QAT. Then we have Federal Register posting complete, so 330 just came back from Federal Register. So this is just a quick view to see where your standard is in the workflow process, or if you want to check to make sure documents aren't getting stuck somewhere, you can just have a quick view into the standard status and see where all the documents are working through. On top of that, we have the 5-year plan. So this is going to show, based on discipline, when the standards were released. So we can see that 557 was released in 2013. Then we have like 460, which is released in 11. So this one really needs to be updated. So that's when we can go check the standard status to see where it is in the workflow of being revised. And then we can see that the brand new ones were just released here in August 18. And these are grouped by, so that group by part, so we group them by the discipline, and then in the standard status we did the group by the status. Okay, then as well as the standard status, you also have a state's standard status. So when you click on that, it'll ask you to choose your state. We'll choose Virginia. And that's going to do the same thing. You're going to see what standards are, where they are in the workflow process. So any of the ones that are just getting adopted, any of them are ready for SDL review, and then any of them need to be processed to CPD, yes. Then we have the in-progress interims. So that'll show you any interims that are under evaluation or time extended, no matter what their state is. So you can see Hawaii has 2 going, Caribbean area has 1, Illinois, Maryland. And then our last created query was this variance query. And this was really designed for the, let's see if there's any in here, the NDL, so they can check, let's say based on the last standard effective date, was a variance created for our 362? And there was not. So let's try a different parameters here to see if it'll come up. I'm trying to think if we had any. No. So once you put in the right parameters, if you actually had some in the system, they would appear here. If you didn't have any, it would appear blank like this. At the very top here, you'll see favorites, and that's not something I really covered. So if I right click on a folder, I can favorite it, add to favorites here, and that just means it'll appear in the top. So I can do a quick jump to Virginia, and then I can choose, I can navigate down faster than having to do the scroll and uncheck these different little arrows. Okay. So next up, let's go over the right-click options. So I'm not going to do every one of the icons options. I'm just going to explain what they do. So let me go to a release standard here. So if I right-click on a standard, first I have check-in and then I have check-out. You can't check in a document unless it's been checked out. So checkout is going to open up, if it's a Quark document, it's going to open up the Quark Web Author. If it's not a Quark document, let's say it's a Word document, it will download that Word document to your computer where you can make the edits and then you can check it back in. Cancel checkout is if you no longer want to be editing the document and you want to discard anything that you edited while you had it checked out. You can use the cancel checkout and to get rid of that. The Get button here will download a copy of the document to your computer. So that's really helpful for like Word documents or for images. You can download those with the Get button. If you try to use a Quark document, it's just going to download the XML, and that's not really going to be beneficial to you. So if you wanted to get a copy of a document, of a Quark document, you would really use this Publish button where you see CPS PDF. So that will make a PDF copy of the document. And you can do that for any document. Let me grab a supporting document real quick. I think there was some here. So if I go to a statement of work, and I right click and do publish, then I have a statement of work PDF. What's this one? This is a practice overview. So, based on the document type, you have the different publish options to make a PDF copy of those. Next is the preview button. So that one I will click on just because it's just getting a bigger image of that right preview screen here. So it's really just this, just in a separate window. That's all we're really looking at there. The next one is relationship information. Not really something you're going to work on, but as I said earlier with this, with that component reference, if I did relationship information, I can see where that document is used at. So like it was used in my migration test, so it was using 2 migration test standards. So if you wanted to see what documents are using this definition, then you would come over here to the relationship information. Let me go into this one. Next is view revisions, and not everyone will have access to this button, but as the ADM, I can see when a document was revised. So I can see that David created the pre-QAT draft on August 2nd, and then he switched it to at 9:19. He switched it to awaiting CPD as updates, and then I can see Bill Rec released it at 9:40. So it gives me a overview of how the document's been progressing. It can see who edited it, what changes they made, and if someone ever did anything incorrectly, I can always revert back, and I can always do a read-only copy to see how you can kind of make out in the preview like this had barely any content. This now has a lot of content in it, and then this has been changed even more. So I can always do a read-only to actually have a deeper look into. I'll just click it. Here we go. Oops. Will actually pull up a read-only view of the standard to look at. And we'll do a separate video for the web author to explain the web author area. Okay. Next is duplicate asset. This button will make a copy of the document. Now I want you guys to be careful using this button. If you use it for a button that's been transferred to NRT or to FileNet, it's going to copy the exact same attributes. So it's going to really pretend like it's the same NRT document, and that could cause a lot of issues. So just buyer beware really on this duplicate asset. If you really want to copy a document, you really want to use this new and then create revision of existing document. This would be the preferred way of copying a document. Then we have index again, and I'll make a separate video for this one based on the requirement here. But index again is just refreshing this side window here. So when I do index again, that's going to send this XML document, this Quark document, over to the Express server, grab the template, and then make a new preview image of it. So if someone ever used like a CPS management button to update this, so like you see how before it had the watermark on it for awaiting CPDS updates, and then someone had changed the status to released, but this preview didn't update, and so the index again will just refresh that preview. Because remember, this preview is just a quick preview, just it's supposed to be real quick just to look at it. It's not always the most up-to-date or current preview. Next is publish that we went into before, where you can create the PDF. Open collection, so that's really good in a query. So if I wanted to go to standard status, and then I see, oh, here's 560. I want to see a supporting document for 560. I can right click and then do open collection, and that'll jump me right to in the hierarchy, the collection hierarchy, exactly where 560 in that document lived. Again, that way I don't have to manually like go through and navigate down. It just jumps me right there. Next is read only. So that I showed with the revision area, but it's going to open up the web author in a read only view. So you can just view the document. You can't make any edits to it. Then the last button here is a custom one we created, and that's FileNet options. And so only really the ADMs, NDL, actually really only ADM at the national level is going to see that, and then the SDL at the state level is going to see this button. And that will send a document to FileNet, and once it's in FileNet, it can be used for the NHCP webpage, and it can be used for the ePhotog. Okay. So the last thing to go through now is how to check your role in your group, and this is where I'll show both the ADM and the SDL. So if on this little drop down arrow here, we'll bring up two windows. So again, this is the Workspace window, and then we have the CPS management window. Now this window is all the advanced features that we created to streamline a lot of the manual tasks. But on the left side here, you'll see your name, you'll see what groups you're a part of, and then you'll see your role. So if I bring over the SDL, so our SDL is Anita, and she is also in these groups, and her role is State Discipline Lead. Now what does that mean? Okay. So your role is going to define a lot of what you see, a lot of what the UI elements will give you. So your role defines what buttons you see in the CPS management window, so you can tell that between the state user and the ADM user, they're vastly different buttons. There are some common buttons, but most of them are different. And it'll affect the new drop-down menu, and I'll show that in 1 second. Then you have this all CPS users group. So that's what's providing read-only access to every document in the system. So by default, everyone can read any document, but based on your groups, that will define what documents you can actually edit. So Anita is really a part of 5 different states, so she travels a lot. So she goes from Virginia to Ohio to Illinois to Colorado to Alabama. And so that would mean that she has access to all of these states' documents. Now, Bill is just an ADM, so as an ADM, he has access to all national documents. If I logged in as an NDL, it would be very similar to the state, where it would be National Discipline Lead for CDAE, and that would mean that they are a National Discipline Lead just for CDAE, and they would have access to only CDAE documents. Now let's go over to the Workspace and this new drop-down menu here. So for the for the ADM at the national level, right, I have NHCP index, O&M, I have all these supporting documents, I have national standard, long summary, short summary, etc. Then if I go as the state discipline lead, I have state index. I don't have state standard because you would adopt a state standard, you wouldn't create it manually. But you have things like variance report, variance query, interim report, interim request letter, whereas an ADM has short summary, long summary. So this is based on your role. So because I'm an SDL, I have these options, and because he is an ADM, he has these options. Alright, so that is just a basic overview of the workspace and the CPS management. We just went through how to view documents, how to search for them, what those queries are, some basic overview of the right-click options, and what your role is and what that means. We're going to go through the rest of these videos, so definitely check out. We're going to try and make these videos more granular, so if you need a very specific help on a specific certain area, then you can jump right to that video and don't have to watch this 30-minute video. But I hope this gave a good overview of the workspace screen, and see you guys in the next video. Thanks, bye.